It's not much more than a week before Christmas, and our lectionary reading offers up an offensive man calling his audience snakes, accusing them of hypocrisy, and promising God's judgment upon them. Now, isn't that a fine how do you do? And doesn't it just make you want to break into a rousing chorus of "We wish you a Merry Christmas"? There's nothing quite like threats of hellfire and damnation to put you in the spirit of the holiday season, is there? But this is the text the lectionary has chosen for us on this third Sunday of Advent. A text about a fierce and fearless desert prophet with no interest in appeasing the masses, but instead describing the religious folks as snakes, even while calling them towards lives suggestive of their changed hearts. You would think this preaching would have kept people away, but that wasn't the case at all. Instead, it continued to draw more and more people. Common, ordinary folks stood shoulder to shoulder with tax collectors who had made a living by cheating their fellow citizens out of the few coins in their possessions. And soldiers were even mixed in with the masses, possibly sent to keep the peace, but just as drawn in by John's words as the others. Each of them unique and from different walks of life, but everyone attracted to the message of a new day that would be ushered in by a Messiah. "Prepare the way," he shouted until he was hoarse. "Prepare the way for the coming of the Messiah." But how, they asked. What must we do? And before we consider his response, it's worth noting what he did not tell them to do. He doesn't tell the people to get back to church, to overthrow the Romans, or to transform the world in some sudden drastic revolution. He doesn't tell them to prepare for the coming of the Messiah by depleting their savings on more presents than they can afford, all in an effort to prove their love to someone or several someones. He doesn't pressure them to exhaust themselves with a calendar filled with holiday parties or to endure writer's cramps while signing an endless number of Christmas cards. He doesn't urge them to drag out from their storage closets and attics all the Christmas gewgaws that have been acquired over the years. And he doesn't tell them to immerse themselves in Christmas carols which anesthetize them against the pain and suffering that clamor for their attention. If we want to prepare for the coming of the Christ this season, these aren't the ways to do it, according to our gospel reading. I'm not saying there are no value in Christmas carols or greeting cards, and I certainly appreciate the memories attached to all of those Christmas gewgaws. But the point I'm trying to make is holiday sentimentality probably isn't the best way to make room for the Spirit of Christ. Then what are we supposed to do? We ask in unison with the crowds. And in a nutshell, his answer is, be nice. If we have an extra coat, give it away and do the same with your food, he says. Don't cheat other people. Don't threaten others in order to get more than your share. Be nice. Howard W. Hunter, a former president of the Church of the Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ, offers a litany of suggestions of ways to be nice. This Christmas, he said, end a quarrel. Seek out a forgotten friend. Dismiss suspicion and replace it with trust. Write a letter. Give a soft answer. Encourage youth. Manifest your loyalty in word and deed. Keep a promise. Forgo a grudge. Forgive an enemy. Apologize. Try to understand. Examine your demands on others. Think first of someone else. Be kind. Be gentle. Laugh a little more. Express your gratitude. Welcome a stranger. Gladden the heart of a child. Take pleasure in the beauty and wonder of the earth. Speak your love, and then speak it again. In response to the questions from the crowd about how to prepare for the coming of the Messiah, John basically sent all the people who came to him back to their regular life, regular activities, regular vocation, and then told each person to be nice, to be loving in whatever way that presented itself. There's a beautiful story about the power of music and the role it played in a Christmas truce during World War I that involved some 100,000 people, when the men on the ground decided they were not fighting the same war as their superiors. It was on a crisp, clear morning, 104 years ago, that thousands of British, Belgian, and French soldiers put down their rifles, stepped out of their trenches, and spent Christmas mingling with their German enemies along the Western Front. In the more than 100 years since, the event has been seen as a kind of miracle, a rare moment of peace just a few months into a war that would eventually claim over 15 million lives. Graham Williams of the 5th London Rifle Brigade describes it this way. First, the Germans would sing one of their carols. Then we would sing one of ours, until when we started up on "O Come All Ye Faithful," the Germans immediately joined in singing the same hymn to the Latin words "Adeste Fideles." And I thought, well, this is really a most extraordinary thing. Two nations both singing the same carol in the middle of a war. The next morning, in some places, German soldiers emerged from their troops calling out "Merry Christmas" in English. Allied soldiers came out cautiously to greet them. In others, Germans held up signs reading "You no shoot, we no shoot." Over the course of the day, troops exchanged gifts of cigarettes, food, buttons, and hats. The Christmas truce also allowed both sides to finally bury their dead comrades whose bodies had lain for weeks on no man's land, the ground between the opposing trenches. Apparently, the phenomenon took different forms across the Western Front. One account mentions a British soldier having his hair cut by his pre-war German barber. Another talks of a pig roast. Several mention impromptu kickabouts with makeshift soccer balls. It's a beautiful story about the power of music. A story about how we are all more alike than we are different. But here's the tragedy of it. It was only a truce, not peace. Hostilities returned in some places later that day, and in others not until after New Year's Day. It was a short peace. It was a short peace in a terrible war. As the Great War resumed, it wreaked such destruction and devastation that soldiers became hardened to the brutality of it all. And fraternization with the enemy was subsequently prohibited and made punishable by death. And so the question before us asks, is that what we will do this Christmas? Take a time out from certain behaviors, battles, or language, and then return to them once again after the holidays? And if not, then what should we do? If we have the ears to hear, John's answer echoes down through the ages. Be nice. return to your lives and be nice to each other. There's probably no better way to prepare for the coming of the Christ this season. When we embrace love as a way of life and not just a symbol of the Christmas season, then we have done more than most in preparing the way for Christ. We live in a broken world that waits to be mended, and the only way that will happen is with the radical love of Jesus Christ. So even after the strains of Christmas carols begin to die away, may we look at each other and find within us a way to be nice. Amen.